Looming beneath the blue skies of New Orleans, the Superdome is an awesome sight. Covering 13 acres of real estate, the massive structure rises to a height of 27 stories. It's a tribute to modern architecture and is truly a beauty to view, both outside and in. On January 26, 1976, this truly magnificent arena would host the NFL's final game of the season, as stars from the National Conference would challenge stars from the American Conference in the 6th annual Pro Bowl. When you think of pro football stars, you probably first think of Orenthal James Simpson of the Buffalo Bills. Number 32's legend has been painted across NFL gridirons for several years now. And after a season which included over 1,800 yards rushing and an NFL record 23 touchdowns, Simpson would lead the American Conference against National Conference stars like Minnesota Viking runner Chuck Foreman. Foreman led the entire NFL in pass receiving with 73 receptions, a record for running backs. And it promised to be a star-studded night, with other runners like Franco Harris and Terry Metcalf filling the lineups. Starting at quarterback for the NFC would be St. Louis Cardinal passer Jim Hart, who would be throwing to speedsters like Mel Gray, John Gilliam, and Harold Jackson. For the American Conference, the NFL's #1 passer would be at center as Kenny Anderson of the Cincinnati Bengals would start at quarterback. Backing Anderson would be Houston Oilers field general Dan Pastorini, a man with a strong arm and the ability to spark excitement with a mere flick of his wrist. So set amid the futuristic setting of the world's largest indoor arena and surrounded by both beauty and excitement, it was time to determine which conference would emerge as the winner. This is the 6th annual AFC-NFC Pro Bowl, and I'm Harry Callis. Inside the spacious Superdome, the wind would not be a factor, so naturally the winner of the coin toss would choose to take possession of the football. Oakland Raider guard Gene Upshaw of the American Conference called it heads, and heads it was. So the game's initial challenge of stopping the AFC offensive stars would fall to the defensive squad of the National Conference, and they very nearly responded by dropping Pittsburgh's Franco Harris for a loss. However, like the great back that he is, Franco Harris managed to turn a near minus into a plus 6 yards. But several plays later, when O.J. Simpson tested the Nationals' right side, his effort went for no gain. Facing 2nd and 10, the American Conference went up top on the arm of Cincinnati Bengal ace Kenny Anderson, the NFL's top passer in 1975. Bengal teammate Isaac Curtis hauled in Anderson's pass for 17 yards, but 3 plays later, facing 3rd and 2 from the Nationals' 28-yard line, O.J. Simpson failed to get a first down. Attempts by the National Conference to establish a running attack early against the Americans proved futile as the white-shirted defenders powered in. Faced with 3rd and 9, Jim Hart launched his first pass of the night, intended for Minnesota Viking receiver John Gilliam, number 81. Gilliam's catch was good for 17 yards, but on the next play, Pittsburgh safety Mike Wagner knifed in to drop Cardinal speedster Terry Metcalf for a 6-yard loss. Now needing 16 yards for a first down, Hart again looked for his Cardinal teammate Terry Metcalf, who broke open for a first down. Metcalf's fumble was ruled after he was down, but 5 plays later, the Nationals' luck ended beneath the blistering charge of L.C. Greenwood. Greenwood's effort stalled out the NFC's first drive, and with 4:15 remaining in the first quarter, it was still a scoreless tie. However, when the AFC regained possession, Kenny Anderson sought to change the lack of scoring in a hurry, airing it out to the Super Bowl's MVP, Steeler wide receiver Lynn Swann. Though barely missing connections, Anderson turned to his stable of fine runners, and the combination of Franco Harris and O.J. Simpson powered the AFC into NFC land. Now in the second quarter, with the ball resting on the Nationals' 11-yard line, Anderson was looking to pass, only to fall prey to the pressure of Los Angeles Ram linebacker Isaiah Robertson, number 58, and the NFC rush line. A mishandled snap on a field goal attempt canceled the scoring threat, turning the ball back over to the National Conference. And it wasn't long until Jim Hart appeared to have something going, after first evading some pressure up front. Hart's strike to Detroit tight end Charlie Sanders, however, was canceled by an illegal motion penalty. And when they failed to gain a first down, Atlanta Falcon punter John James kicked the ball away, high and deep. Billy Hummingbird Johnson of the Houston Oilers momentarily bobbled the kick, regained possession, then set sail on a rendezvous with excitement. The sight of Billy Johnson weaving through scattered and confused defenders is nothing new, because he has been doing it for the past 2 seasons for the Houston Oilers. With the ball now in National Conference territory, it appeared as though the fortunes had turned in favor of the American Conference. But though the subsequent drive penetrated the 10-yard line, Kenny Anderson just could not punch it in. The Americans had to settle for a field goal, and while members of the media looked on with fans throughout the country, the game's first points were delivered by Kansas City Chief place kicker Jan Stenerud, the Pro Bowl's most valuable player in 1972. After the Nationals failed to move on their next possession, a new backfield composed of Oiler quarterback Dan Pastorini and New York Jet runner John Riggins ignited the Americans downfield. Oiler wide receiver Kenny Burrow stepped off 12 difficult yards for the visitors, but disasters struck Pastorini on the next play, when a bomb fizzled out in flight, and Redskin safety Kenny Houston intercepted. Pastorini's problems continued on their next series as San Francisco 49er defensive end Cedric Hardman blew in to drop Pastorini for a drive-stalling -9. The pass-rushing cycle continued when the Nationals' next possession ended beneath L.C. Greenwood's second sack of the night. With little time to throw, the passing games of both squads were proving to have little effect, so Dan Pastorini began to make use of shorter, less time-consuming patterns, and the results were spectacular. Oakland's Cliff Branch raced 32 yards with one Pastorini pass, but from the Nationals' 23-yard line, a golden opportunity for a touchdown was just barely missed. Green Bay Packer linebacker Freddie Carr was credited with the save as his fine effort stopped a sure American Conference touchdown. Now faced with 3rd and 10, Pastorini tried for the first down by turning the juice loose. But for all of his scrambling, O.J. failed to get the first down. O.J.'s great escape set up another field goal, and late in the second quarter, the American Conference led 6-0. With little time remaining in the half, the National Conference roared to life as Jim Hart found Charlie Sanders over the middle. Sanders' catch was good for 28 yards, but that was to be the extent of the march as harassment up front forced Hart to throw off target, and Pittsburgh's Jack Lambert hauled in the turnover. With 32 seconds remaining in the first half, the American Conference, led by Dante Pastorini, needed but one play to make the turnover pay off with points. Houston Oilers teammate Kenny "Double-O" Burrow combined with Pastorini to complete a 64-yard scoring thriller, the longest touchdown pass in the history of the Pro Bowl. And going into the halftime break, the American Conference had a solid 13-0 advantage. What had been a tight-fisted defensive battle most of the first half now seemed to be showing signs of turning in favor of the multi-talented offenses that both clubs claim. And like a starter's pistol, Pastorini Lightning had signaled only the beginning of what would be the most exciting Pro Bowl ever. As the second half began, the National Conference finally began to establish a running game, alternating lightning-quick Terry Metcalf and Chuck Foreman on bursts which carried them to the Americans' 29-yard line. Though the Nationals appeared to be making steady headway on the ground, their opposition soon stiffened, and when Hart went looking for a first down through the air, an incompletion brought about a fourth down. Bengal cornerback Lamar Parrish forced the incompletion, leaving St. Louis Cardinal kicker Jim Bakken with the task of salvaging the drive with a field goal. From 42 yards out, Bakken's kick was true, and the NFC had finally broken the scoring ice. On the kickoff, Jim Bakken would need a high, deep kick to allow his cover men time to get downfield for the tackle. The boot was indeed what he wanted. However, Billy Johnson, number 84, pulled a Houdini act and very nearly broke one. While Johnson's escape routine worked on the special team, Kenny Anderson found that there was no place to hide from the fired-up NFC defense who came roaring in for a sack. Chicago Bear defensive tackle Wally Chambers, number 60, was the culprit, and 2 plays later, pressure again bothered Anderson, who this time decided to pack it downfield and improvise a little on the way. O.J. Simpson completed the 22-yard gainer, which gave the team in white a first down at midfield. However, the drive fizzled as what might have been a touchdown was an incompletion instead, and the AFC was forced to give the ball up. The NFC wasted no time in coming back and roared to life on the legs of Chuck Foreman. Here, though, the AFC buckled down as Oakland Raider linebacker Phil Villapiano, number 41, stormed in to drop Metcalf in his tracks. Needing 4 for a first down, Hart went up top to Chuck Foreman. The play was good for 10 yards, and several plays later, when Hart handed to Terry Metcalf, the NFC was suddenly at the 4-yard line. With first and goal, Hart wasted no time in finding the end zone with a sure pass to Chuck Foreman. Foreman scored on a play which was called the Hart Special, and though the conversion was blocked, the NFC was back in it 13-9. Having been silenced most of the third quarter, Kenny Anderson came out throwing in the final period. His pass to Ken Burrow was good for 16, but 4 plays later, missed timing cost a sure score. The AFC failed to score, but then where the AFC offense fell short, their defense stood tall and shut down the NFC's next possession. Facing 4th and 5, NFC punter John James summoned his finest effort of the night, a 54-yarder. Unfortunately, though, it sailed straight to Billy Johnson, who blurred past the startled NFC for 90 yards and a touchdown. After his customary rubber legs routine in the end zone signaled the end of yet another remarkable touchdown for Billy Johnson, the fiery little speedster had done enough to earn himself the most valuable player of the Pro Bowl. On 7 kick returns, Billy Johnson gained 211 yards for over a 30-yard average per kick return. And the American Conference now led 20-9. Just as suddenly as the Johnson run, the NFC ripped back into the game as Los Angeles Ram runner Lawrence McCutcheon burst free for 41 yards. McCutcheon's run of 41 yards was the longest from scrimmage in Pro Bowl history, but subsequent success was not to be as the drive stalled out and ended on a missed field goal. On their next possession, however, things began to happen. Philadelphia Eagle quarterback Mike Barilla ignited the NFC, and all AFC head coach John Madden could do was watch as the NFC marched to the Americans' 14-yard line. From there, a score was only a fake reverse pass away. Terry Metcalf's catch closed the gap to within 4 points at 20-16. Over 3 minutes remained, and what seemed a sure AFC victory was now anyone's ballgame. Attempts to run down the clock by the AFC failed as the Nationals closed for the ball. 3 plays failed to produce a first down, so Oakland's Ray Guy was forced to kick it away. Guy's kick sailed 54 yards where Green Bay Packers speedster Steve Odom hauled it in, then pitched it to Detroit's Lem Barney, who sped 40 yards. Suddenly, the NFC was in position to win it at the AFC 39-yard line. All the team in blue needed now was a little luck and a super effort. They got both. Minnesota Vikings sensation Chuck Foreman, number 44, carried the NFC to the 4-yard line. About the play, Foreman said, "It was an option screen. It came open and we hit. I felt like I ran 100 yards on that play." Though not quite 100 yards, the play was good for 26. And after meeting with NFC head coach Chuck Knox, Varela returned to the field where the outcome of the game would be determined on one final play. Barely a minute remained, and for the valiant NFC squad, victory would have to come suddenly. It did, as Cardinal flash Mel Gray gathered in Varela's pass to finalize a 23-20 come-from-behind win over the AFC All-Stars.